Thrag. The intergalactic silver fox of doom. He's like if Superman had a midlife crisis, joined a space gym, and decided that diplomacy was for weaklings. He's a Viltrumite, a race of ultra-jacked aliens with a superiority complex the size of Jupiter. And not just any Viltrumite, oh no, he's their leader, their king, their crown jewel of carnage. Let's just say if you gave a sentient protein shake a PhD in murder, you'd get Thrag. This guy looks at peaceful civilizations and goes, neat place you got here. Be a shame if someone subjugated it violently. His parenting style? Throw your half-human kids into death matches. His hobbies? Genocide, betrayal, growing the angriest mustache in the universe. He dismembered Oliver Grayson's arm, breaking his jaw and nearly killing him. He even sarcastically remarks he seemed like a nice boy. After Viltrum's destruction, he goes into a rage and decapitates Thetis, and then crushes his head, stating that he will not be missed. He sends his army to attack Taliscria, causing an all-out war on the planet. Thrag doesn't just cross moral lines, he builds an interstellar highway over them and charges tolls. Basically, he's what happens when peak physical fitness meets absolute moral bankruptcy. But hey, at least he's consistent. Evil, but consistent. Chucky. Chucky is what happens when you mix a doll, a serial killer, and the worst customer service return policy imaginable. He's a tiny red-headed menace in overalls who looks like he should be saying, "Let's play Tea Party," but instead says things like, "Wanna play with knives?" His real name is Charles Lee Ray, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler. He is the titular main antagonist of Don Mancini's Child's Play franchise. Well, you see, Chucky wasn't just born a bad doll, no. He used to be a serial killer with a very enthusiastic interest in voodoo. When the cops cornered him, instead of, say, accepting responsibility like a normal murderer, he did the sensible thing and transferred his soul into the nearest children's toy. From there, it was all downhill. He just wanted a new body, preferably human, a little revenge, and maybe a few stabbings along the way. He only became evil due to his sadistic desire to hurt and kill others, as shown when his father was killed by the Hackensack slasher, and decided to become just like him because he was inspired by the killer's actions. Honestly, if he'd just focused on Etsy crafts and not murder, Chucky could have been the face of a quirky vintage toy business. Instead, he chose mayhem and became the most terrifying toy since Tickle Me Elmo ran out of batteries mid-lap. Kamen Rider Dark Kiva. Kamen Rider Dark Kiva is the original king of the Fangers from Kamen Rider Kiva, serving as the main antagonist of the 1986 section of the series. Imagine a vampire monarch with a flair for the dramatic and a penchant for genocide. He didn't just want to rule the Fangers, he aimed to wipe out entire races like the Wolfen, Merman, and Franken. Talk about overachieving. When he found out his wife, Maya, was playing footsie with a human named Otoya, did he take the high road? Nope. He tried to force her to kill her lover. When that didn't work, he decided to turn the surviving members of the races he hadn't yet exterminated into living weapons. And for his next trick, he captured Otoya, chained him up, and painfully drained his life energy. He also sealed Jiro into the Gurulu saber when he interfered with his attempt to execute Otoya. Even his own minions couldn't stand him. His loyal servant, Bishop, was so disgusted by his actions that he ended up helping Otoya take him down. When your right-hand man thinks you've gone too far, you know you're the baddest of the bad. Dark Kiva isn't just evil. He's the whole evil enchilada with a side of malevolence. King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah is the main antagonist of the Showa Godzilla movies, first appearing in the 1964 film Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. He is basically the golden dragon equivalent of that one cousin who shows up uninvited, eats all your snacks, sets your house on fire, and then flies off like nothing happened. He is a giant golden three-headed extraterrestrial dragon kaiju who travels from planet to planet, destroying them and their entire life populations before setting his sights on the Earth. He would then become the ultimate weapon of various alien races, including the Xiliens, and Nebula space hunters, the Garogas, and the Kilaks. He's evil mostly because he can be. He's from space, which already makes him sketchy. And instead of using his cosmic powers for good, like helping alien puppies or writing poetry, he chooses mayhem. His hobbies include yelling at Godzilla, electrocuting cities for fun, and being a general drama queen with lightning breath. Honestly, if chaotic evil were a job title, Ghidorah would already be regional manager. He shows cruelty and hatred towards all living beings that he encounters, human or not, even when they pose no threat to him, and he just maliciously slaughters them simply for pleasure rather than just mere hunger, self-defense, or a desire to survive. Bullseye. The guy who turns everyday objects into deadly weapons like he's auditioning for America's Got Murdered talent. He's basically what happens when someone takes Dart Champion way too seriously and decides, you know what? I'm gonna ruin people's lives with this. This man doesn't miss. Ever. Seriously, if he throws a paperclip at you from across the street while riding a unicycle in a thunderstorm, you're toast. He once killed someone with a peanut. A peanut. That's not a villain. That's a food allergy personified. As for why he's evil, honestly, I think someone just beat him at Connect 4 when he was a kid and he never recovered. Instead of going to therapy, he went straight to professional assassin on LinkedIn. And his entire personality is just spite. Like if pettiness grew legs and got a sponsorship from throwing knives. Plus, he's obsessed with Daredevil. Not in a wow, I admire your work way, more like I'm gonna rearrange your face because you bruised my ego one time kind of way. It's like watching a jealous ex try to win a breakup using shurikens. Bullseye is evil because he's talented, bitter, and emotionally constipated. Also because it's way easier to be a supervillain than to take up yoga and chill. Kenjaku. Kenjaku is basically Jujutsu Kaisen's version of that one friend who can't just chill. He's gotta possess people, make weird plans spanning centuries, and ruin everyone's lives just because he thinks it's fun. He is also known as Suguru Geto or Shudo Geto, and formerly known as Noritoshi Kamo and Kori Itadori, is one of the two main antagonists of the manga and anime series Jujutsu Kaisen. This guy literally body-hopped into Suguru Geto, a fan-favorite character, like he was picking an outfit from the back of his closet. What should I wear today? Oh, tragic sorcerer with emotional baggage. Yes, please. He is a ruthless and manipulative sorcerer dating back to 1,000 years. Kenjaku had been surviving throughout millennia by implanting his brain into various hosts using his innate technique and stealing their cursed techniques. At this point, he's less of a person and more of an ancient chaos subscription service, new drama delivered weekly. He treats human lives like chess pieces, thinks curses are neat little pets, and orchestrated an entire murder Olympics in Shibuya for science, or vibes, or boredom, probably all three. He also started the culling games and got millions of people killed. If Kenjaku had a LinkedIn, it would just say Professional Menace. Endorsed by nobody. Locked by everyone. Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan Kibutsuji, also known as the Demon King, is the main antagonist of the Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba franchise. Imagine if Michael Jackson moonwalked straight into villainy and never looked back. This guy is the big bad of Demon Slayer, the original demon, the first one to ever say, you know what would make immortality better? Ruining everyone else's life along the way. He was originally a human who suffered from a terminal illness. During an experimental treatment, Muzan became the first ever demon. He's got the whole, I'm too beautiful to be this evil energy. But don't be fooled, he's the supernatural equivalent of someone who cuts in line and blames you for it. Muzan turns people into demons like it's Oprah's giveaway show. You get a blood curse, you get uncontrollable hunger. Everyone gets trauma, all because he's allergic to sunlight and apparently to minding his own business. He has a god complex, but also the emotional stability of a cat that didn't get fed on time. Every time someone disappoints him, boom, decapitated, or exploded, or turned into chunky salsa. This man doesn't believe in constructive criticism. He believes in overreaction. He's dramatic, petty, and couldn't take a therapist appointment even if his life depended on it. Which, ironically, it kind of does. Eddie Gluskin. Oh boy, where do we even start with this guy? Imagine if a Victorian poet, a deranged butcher, and a wedding planner had a very unfortunate baby, and then dropped him on his head repeatedly while whispering sweet nothings about eternal love and bone saws. That's Eddie. He is referred to as the Groom, the secondary antagonist of the whistleblower DLC for the 2013 survival horror game Outlast. He's a charmer who just wants to get married. A hopeless romantic, really. Except his idea of courtship involves abduction, chains, and unsolicited DIY surgeries. Romantic dinners? Nah, more like romantic dismemberments. He thinks flowers are overrated and prefers decorating with intestines. A real trendsetter, he is obsessed with making a bride for himself by kidnapping and turning men into women through surgical mutilation. Gluskin chooses protagonist Wayland Park as his next attempt when he's forced to travel through Gluskin's territory. Now, why is he evil? Well, if your definition of evil includes lovingly crafting bridal gowns out of human flesh and insisting everyone play Here Comes the Bride on loop while he hunts you down with a buzzsaw, then yeah, Eddie checks all the boxes. He's basically a Hallmark movie villain directed by Quentin Tarantino, but in his mind, he's just looking for the one. Too bad the one keeps screaming and running away. Front Man. The front man from Squid Game, the masked maestro of mayhem, the conductor of chaos, and the sibling surprise no one saw coming. Let's dive into the enigmatic world of Hwang In-ho, the man who turned a children's game into a deadly spectacle, all while maintaining a wardrobe that screams mysterious villain chic. Hwang In-ho, once a participant in the 28th Squid Game in 2015, emerged victorious and decided that winning wasn't enough. He thought, why not oversee the whole operation? Thus he donned a sleek black mask and became the overseer of the Squid Game, ensuring that the deadly games run smoother than a well-oiled guillotine. Well, In-ho believes in equality, equal opportunity for everyone to meet their demise. He ensures that all 456 participants, desperate and impoverished, have a fair shot at survival in games that are anything but child's play. It's like Oprah, but instead of cars, it's bullets. You get a chance to die, and you get a chance to die. In-ho is as strict as a headmaster with a ruler fetish. He executes any underling who dares to break the rules or disrupt the games. It's his way of maintaining order, because nothing says discipline like a bullet to the head, and the cherry on top. He shot his own brother, Detective Hwang Jun-ho, who was snooping around the games. Family reunions must be awkward. The front man is the epitome of Big Brother is watching, except this Big Brother has a penchant for deadly games and a flair for the dramatic. Ultraman Belial. The cosmic equivalent of that one guy who brings fireworks to a candlelit dinner. Once a proud Ultraman, Belial took a nosedive into villainy faster than when your dad goes to buy milk. He is the main antagonist of the Ultraman franchise, and an archenemy of Ultraman Zero and the father of Ultraman Geed, who was created with his genetic components. Originally, Belial was one of the most powerful and renowned Ultras in the Land of Light, but he had a teensy-weensy obsession with power. When he tried to take away the power of the plasma spark, it didn't go as planned. Instead of gaining ultimate power, he got a one-way ticket to Banishmentville. But did he learn his lesson? Of course not. He merged with REUPLOAD, got a villainous makeover, and became the first Ultraman Rayonix. Think of it as joining a gym, but instead of lifting weights, you lift entire planets into chaos. Belial's resume of evil is quite impressive. He orchestrated the Belial Revolt, which sounds like a rock band but was actually his attempt to conquer the Land of Light. He overpowered his fellow Ultras, including Ultraman Ken and Ultrawoman Marie, and stole a plasma spark, turning their home into a cosmic popsicle. And just when you thought he couldn't get any worse, he controlled a monster army using the Giga Battlenizer and becomes Beliudra, a gigantic chimeric monster made up of over 100 other monsters. Rinny. She's the kind of character who makes you want to hug your teddy bear a little tighter, and then maybe set it on fire just to be safe. Rinny is the main antagonist of the web series Pretty Blood. She's a polar bear Molino who works for an organization that kidnaps and abuses Molinos for money and entertainment. Rinny presents herself as a charming and outgoing Molino, but in truth, she's a cruel sadist driven by a lust for torture. She has committed numerous heinous crimes, including torture, human trafficking, mutilation, child abuse, you name it. Her most despicable act involves recording herself torturing her daughter after unaliving her husband and blaming someone else for it. Rinny was raised by her parents, Limo and Alex. However, she was born as a psychopath. In her childhood, she unalived her pet cat when she was only 4 years old. In Toy Lily, she spikes the punch and knocks everyone out. She then sells them to Pretty Blood. One of these friends, Lily, is surgically implanted with an exoskeleton that lets Rinny remotely control her. She uses it to force her to unalive her own family. In the Red Snow series, she relocates her torture chamber to a remote cabin, where she abuses Looney, Bloon, Copper, Elma, and Carl. They escape and tie her up, where Looney gets revenge on her by torturing her. If you're ever in the mood for a character who makes Hannibal Lecter look like a misunderstood gourmet, Rennie's your gal. Divolo. Divolo, also known as the Boss, is the main antagonist of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Golden Wind. Straight from the pages of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, this guy isn't just evil, he's a full-course buffet of villainy with a side of existential dread. Divolo kicked off his life by trying to erase his own past, literally. He attempted to silence his mother permanently by sewing her mouth shut and burying her alive. When that didn't quite go as planned, he decided arson was the next best option, setting his hometown ablaze and unaliving his adoptive father along with 5 others. Talk about a dramatic exit. Fast forward to his adult years, and Divolo becomes the elusive boss of Passion, Italy's most stylishly dangerous mafia. His hobbies include drug trafficking, identity erasure, and many more. Divolo's alter ego, Vinegar Doppio, is the unsuspecting puppet in his twisted game of hide and seek. Together, they wield the Stand King Crimson, which allows Divolo to skip time and deliver fatal blows before his enemies can say anything. It's like fast-forwarding through the boring parts of a movie, except the boring parts are other people's lives. Divolo's quest for anonymity and control lands him in a fate worse than death, an eternal loop of dying over and over again, courtesy of Giorno Giovanna's Gold Experience Requiem. It's poetic justice for a man who tried so hard to erase his past, only to become a permanent fixture in the annals of villainy. Volto. Kamen Rider builds answer to the question, what if a black hole had a personality and it was a smug jerk? This cosmic calamity from the Blood Tribe isn't just your average villain. He is a mysterious extraterrestrial entity who devoured countless planets across the cosmos. He is a member of an enigmatic extraterrestrial clan known as the Blood Tribe, who uses the evil driver to transform into Kamen Rider Evil, and the one who annihilated the ancient civilization on Mars long ago using the power of the Pandora box. He caused the Sky Wall disaster whilst possessing Soichi Ishiruji and framing his host for it and having him arrested and placed in a mental hospital. He returned to his true alien form and consumed the planet with his black hole abilities as a show of force, planned to consume Earth to gain more power and recreate the universe in his own image. He sent a sample of his own genes to Earth, which went into Ryuga's mother and legally raped her to corrupt her womb with his DNA. She later gave birth to Ryuga, who appears to be Evolt's biological son because of it. In the end, Evolto's downfall came at the hands of the very heroes he sought to destroy. But not before he left an indelible mark on the universe, and a reminder that sometimes the biggest threats come with the smuggest grins. Micah Bell. The man who could make a rattlesnake seem cuddly. In the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, he's the guy who makes you wish the Wild West had HR departments. From his teenage years, Micah was already auditioning for the role of most likely to commit atrocities, having committed double homicide with his father at just 17. He didn't just cross moral lines, he danced over them in spurred boots. Whether it was shooting up half of Strawberry to retrieve his favorite guns or betraying the Van der Linde gang to the Pinkertons, Micah's resume reads like a checklist of villainy. His interpersonal skill, let's just say they were as charming as a cactus hug. He was an equal opportunity offender, racist, sexist, and ageist, insulting fellow gang members like Charles, Lenny, Javier, and even the camp dog, Kane, whom he allegedly kicked and possibly unalived. He manipulated Dutch, the gang leader, turning him against longtime allies like Arthur and John. And when it came to Arthur, Micah didn't just betray him. He mocked his illness and ensured his demise, either directly or by leaving him to succumb to tuberculosis. In the end, Micah's treachery caught up with him, and he met his demise. But not before leaving a trail of betrayal, bloodshed, and bad vibes. Truly, Micah Bell is the kind of character who makes you appreciate the moral compass of a rattlesnake. Negan. Negan Smith, the man, the myth, the leather-jacketed lunatic with a barbed wire bat named Lucille. If charisma were a weapon, he'd have wiped out the apocalypse single-handedly. But alas, he chose to swing Lucille instead, and not just for batting practice. Before his redemption arc, Negan was the head honcho of the Saviors, a group that believed in the fine art of extortion. His leadership style. Think of a motivational speaker with a penchant for violence and a love for monologues that could rival Shakespeare. if Shakespeare were into post-apocalyptic tyranny. Negan's villainy wasn't just about brute force, it was about psychological warfare with a side of sadistic humor. He had a thing for making jokes while tormenting his victims, admitting that he enjoyed unaliving those he deemed deserving. His actions included burning half of Dwight and Mark's faces with an iron, Dwight for attempting to escape and Mark for having fun time with one of Negan's wives. He disemboweled Spencer in front of the Alexandria community for plotting against Rick, and then had Arat unalive Olivia after Rosita's failed assassination attempt. Negan also unalived Dr. Carson by shoving him into a furnace, mistakenly believing he had helped Daryl escape. Negan is a complex character, a villain with a twisted sense of humor and a bat, who eventually sought redemption. Just don't ask him to babysit. Destoroyah, the kaiju equivalent of that one coworker who microwaves fish in the office kitchen and then sets the building on fire just because. Born from a colony of Precambrian crustaceans mutated by the oxygen destroyer, yes, the same weapon that offed the original Godzilla, Destoroyah decided that if life gives you lemons, you should obliterate all life on Earth. He planned mass genocide on all life on Earth, because who needs a reason when you're a mutated sea bug with a vendetta? Destoroyah tortured Godzilla Jr. by stabbing him and injecting him with micro-oxygen, unalived a lot of people with no remorse, and nearly unalived Godzilla Jr. right in front of Godzilla, who was just about to reunite with his son. And just when you thought he couldn't get any worse, Destoroyah took immense pride in causing pain and suffering, deliberately destroying cities like a kid knocking over sandcastles, all while laughing sadistically. Now some might argue that Destoroyah's actions are due to his mutation and lack of moral agency, but let's be real. When you're dragging a grieving Godzilla around by his tail and attacking him with smaller versions of yourself, you're not exactly winning any empathy awards. Kamen Rider Oja. Kamen Rider Oja is one of the main antagonists in Kamen Rider Ryuki, a 2002 tokusatsu series from the Kamen Rider franchise. His real identity is Takeshi Asakura, a violent and psychopathic criminal who becomes a rider purely for the sake of indulging in his bloodlust. This guy isn't just evil, he's chaos incarnate. He's not a tragic villain, he's not misunderstood, he's just an unhinged, violence-loving lunatic who wakes up every morning and chooses maximum violence. Takeshi Asakura was already a dangerous criminal before he became a rider. He had a violent past, starting with setting his own house on fire as a child. Yeah, real healthy hobbies there. He then grew up to become a full-fledged criminal with an extensive rap sheet that included robbery, arson, and of course murder. He was so dangerous that even his own lawyer was terrified of him. That lawyer, Shiro Kanzaki, saw potential in Asakura's, let's call it enthusiasm for destruction, and decided, yeah, let's make this guy a Kamen Rider. Because what's the worst that could happen? Spoiler, everything. He killed Kamen Rider Guy, stalked and terrorized his own brother. He killed Kamen Riders Raya and Guy, then stole their monsters, making himself an even bigger threat. In the end, Asakura didn't even die a noble death. He was finally cornered by the police but broke out of his handcuffs, beat up the officers, stole a gun, and went on a rampage. He almost escaped but was eventually gunned down. And you know what? He died laughing. Because of course he did. OL Nam. OL Nam, HAA Player 001, is that deceptively adorable old man from Squid Game who made us all go, aw, poor grandpa, only for him to turn out to be the Jeff Bezos of the death game. This sneaky senior citizen wasn't just another desperate contestant. He was the mastermind behind the entire operation. That's right, while the other players were out here sobbing over their debts and fighting for their lives, Ilnam was pretending to be a struggling old man just to get some thrills. Why? Because the ultra-rich get bored, apparently. This guy had so much money that normal billionaire hobbies, like buying islands, collecting yachts, or launching cars into space, just weren't doing it for him anymore. Instead, he and his equally psychopathic rich friends decided, hey, you know what would be fun? Forcing broke people to play children's games with a little twist. If they lose, they die. He orchestrated this annual bloodbath for who knows how long, luring desperate people into a sadistic game where the only way out was winning or dying. He sat back and watched people get gunned down in red light, green light, all while pretending to be an innocent, confused old man. After faking his death and letting Ji-hoon spiral into misery, this grandpa actually had the audacity to reappear, lying in a hospital bed like some frail angel, and say, "Haha, it was all just a game, bro." He then bet on whether a random homeless guy would get help before midnight, because even on his deathbed, he just had to squeeze in one last game. Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash, also known as Eobard Thawne, is one of the greatest enemies of the Flash in DC Comics. He is a scientist from the 25th century who created the negative Speed Force in order to replicate the power of the Flash, the speedster hero he idolized. However, after discovering he was destined to become the Flash's greatest archenemy, he was driven insane by jealousy and hatred and decided to dedicate his whole existence to destroying the entire life of the Flash. He murdered Barry's mother, Nora Allen, and incriminated his father, Henry, for it to ruin his life. He killed Iris West by vibrating his hand through her head. He also tried to kill Fiona Webb in the same manner, forcing Barry to snap his neck. During the return of Barry Allen, he convinced himself that he was Barry Allen and traveled back in time to steal the latter's identity. After learning the people of Central City had accepted Wally West as the new Flash, Thawne opted to try and destroy the city out of revenge for forgetting him. He also went full soap opera mode with Wally West, erasing Wally's children from existence. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your kids were Thawne out of history. Jimmy. The co-pilot who took Crash Course a bit too literally. Jimmy is the main protagonist of the 2024 Swedish psychological horror game Mouthwashing. Jimmy was the Tulpar freighter's trusty co-pilot, right behind Captain Curly in both rank and, apparently, self-esteem. After their company, Pony Express, went belly up, the ship conveniently crashed into an asteroid. At first, Curly took the blame, but surprise. Turns out Jimmy, fueled by jealousy, personal baggage, and a complete allergy to responsibility, was the real mastermind behind the cosmic fender bender. He rapes and impregnates Anya, the ship's medic, by drugging her with a drink, resulting in her pregnancy, mental spiral, and eventual suicide, something he expressed no guilt towards. After becoming captain, Jimmy began to mistreat the crew by demeaning Anya for not helping enough and abusing Curly by shoving painkillers down his throat. He also vented his frustrations about the pressure and responsibilities of being captain to him, despite him putting everyone in their situation and assigning himself in that position. After being alone with Curly, he begins to torture his best friend by ripping into his flesh, cutting off and eating his body parts, and eventually feeding Curly his own flesh multiple times, causing him to throw up repeatedly. The Joker. Gotham's clown prince of crime, the ultimate party crasher, and the world's most dangerously unhinged stand-up comedian. If Batman is the brooding, overworked detective who never sleeps, the Joker is the chaos-loving maniac who never stops laughing, mostly at his own jokes. Calling the Joker just evil is like calling the ocean just wet. It's a bit of an understatement. He's not your run-of-the-mill bank robber or mustache-twirling villain. He's the kind of guy who wakes up in the morning and decides, should I commit a normal crime today? Nah, let's drive a bus full of nuns off a bridge and replace Gotham's drinking water with laughing gas instead. In Superman, Emperor Joker, the Joker lucks his way into godlike powers, essentially becoming a cosmic prankster with the abilities of a reality-warping deity. Think Loki from Marvel, but with way less charm and way more chaos. Now, given unlimited power, you'd think the Joker would spend his time turning skyscrapers into giant whoopee cushions or making Batman's cape permanently stuck in a revolving door. But no, he cranks the horror dial up to 11. He goes to China and eats every single child in the country, just so he can set up a punchline about not liking Chinese food. Chiacolata. Chiacolata is one of the most sadistic villains in JoJo's bizarre adventure, Golden Wind. He's a former doctor who turned into a psychotic executioner for Diavolo's Unidad Special, and he gets his kicks from watching people suffer. He's like if you took Dr. Phil, made him an actual doctor, removed any moral compass, and then cranked his love for human misery up to 11. Aside from the whole loving to watch people die in agony thing, he also used to deliberately kill his own patients. He got into medicine not to save lives, but to creatively end them while pretending to care. In doing so, he reduced the amount of anesthesia so his patients would wake up during surgery and witness him operating on them, giving him delight in seeing them witness their own deaths. Although he shows some care and love to his henchman, Seko, He only uses him as a human pet to fulfill his sadism. He doesn't even treat Seko as a human, feeding Seko with sugar cubes and playing catch games in a way of taming dogs, making their relationship twisted and toxic. Even Diavolo, someone who himself is pure evil, is absolutely disgusted by Chocolata's vile manners and only deploys him if he has absolutely no other choice. Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan is the protagonist of Reverend Insanity, a Chinese web novel written by
古真人
He is a ruthless, pragmatic, and highly intelligent Gu master who prioritizes his survival and pursuit of immortality above all else. The story follows his journey as he reincarnates back 500 years into the past with all his memories intact, allowing him to manipulate events to his advantage. In a world where everyone is already a backstabbing, power-hungry maniac, Fang Yuan simply takes it to the next level. He's the final boss who showed up in the tutorial and refused to leave. Morality? Never heard of it. Mercy? Only if it benefits him. Friendship? He'd rather befriend a venomous snake. At least they're predictable. He turns a wholesome family gathering into a horror movie where everyone gets front row seats to their own demise. He gives a 15-year-old girl a very immersive wildlife experience by feeding her to a bear. He decides team bonding is overrated and unalives his entire squad, slaughters a clan of people with a chainsaw, whips up a twin soup by boiling a pair alive, unleashes a monster buffet where 1,000 people are the entree, breaks off his engagement in the worst way possible, by straight up murdering his fiancée and snacking on her soul, takes identity theft to the next level by warping a man's son into a nightmare creature, gaslights, manipulates, and ruins a genuinely good doctor's life so hard that the poor guy mass murders his way into suicide. Gigas. Gigas is the main antagonist of Earthbound 1994, also known as Mother 2 in Japan. He's essentially a cosmic horror wrapped in a red, swirling mess of nightmare fuel, a being of pure evil and destruction that defies traditional villain tropes by being less of a character and more of an omnipresent, mind-shattering force. Aliens yoinked baby Gigas and a human couple, George and Maria, who basically became his space parents. George, being a nosy human, secretly studied the aliens' PSI powers and then pulled a great escape back to Earth. For the next 80 years, George became the ultimate paranoid grandpa, building gadgets and preparing for an alien smackdown. PSI started popping up on Earth, which really ticked off the aliens. So they sent Gigas, now all grown up and ridiculously powerful, to reclaim it. The catch? He had to let go of his love for Maria, making this whole invasion one big tragic family drama. Gigas, already unstable from his guilt surrounding the loss of Maria, exerts such tremendous evil power that it destroys his entire being, including his mind, causing him to become undefinable by human standards. Gigas has come to symbolize fear in the hearts of gamers. It was based on a murder scene the creator saw when he was a young boy at an adult movie theater. He was totally traumatized and wanted to convey that same feeling through Gigas. Kamen Rider Kaikusa. Masato Kusaka, better known as Kamen Rider Kaikusa, is the villainous protagonist of Kamen Rider 555 and the main antagonist of the novel adaptation Grotesque Flowers by Toshiki Inoue. This guy's idea of friendship, gaslighting, backstabbing, and the occasional attempted murder. In the novel version, he treated his childhood friend Mary Sonoda less like a person and more like a limited edition action figure he refused to share. He never loved Mary, to the point of raping her, showing how far he can go. After raping her, he basically forces Mary to date him, threatening her and her loved ones if she refuses. Kusaka's hatred for Orphnox was so intense, he made it his life's mission to exterminate them all. Peaceful Orphnox? Didn't matter. If you had Orphnox DNA, you were on his hit list. He even went as far as to manipulate others, like Yuji Kiba, turning friends into enemies faster than you can say henshin. He brutally unalives a pregnant Yuka by mutilating and stabbing her to death, with him doing this act mainly despite Yuji Kiba, causing him to turn against the humans. And when he wasn't busy being a sociopath, he was impersonating others, sabotaging relationships, and generally making everyone's lives miserable. So if you're ever feeling down, just remember, at least you're not Masato Kusaka. All for One. Shigaraki, better known as All for One, is the overarching antagonist of the My Hero Academia franchise. He is the founder and leader of the League of Villains and the former master and adopted father of Tomura Shigaraki. He's basically the ultimate villain with the power that lets him steal other people's quirks and either keep them for himself or give them to others. This man looked at a society full of people with cool superpowers and thought, buffet. Instead of using his power to maybe, I don't know, help people or open a very successful quirk rental business, he decided to become a shadowy crime lord, create chaos, manipulate desperate people, and basically go full, I want to rule everything and everyone mode. He stole quirks from heroes and civilians alike, like some kind of magical kleptomaniac. He raised a small army of villains, including the emotional trauma burrito that is Tomura Shigaraki. And he didn't just hurt people physically. Oh no, he emotionally scared them too, like a walking, talking therapy bill. He even manipulated Shigaraki from childhood like some kind of evil Pinterest parent for villains. All for one is like if Darth Vader, the Joker, and a very rude Ginny had a baby. But instead of granting wishes, he just ruins everyone's day, steals your best skill, and somehow still has time to monologue like a theater kid with a god complex. Bondrewd. Bondrewd, known by many as the Lord of Dawn, is the main antagonist of the Ido front arc of the anime and manga series Made in Abyss, the human embodiment of a red flag wrapped in a lab coat and dipped in a vat of no thanks. He's the kind of guy who smiles at you with genuine warmth, while holding a scalpel and asking if you mind terribly if he just, borrowed your consciousness for science. He's a white whistle delver, which in Made in Abyss land means he's one of the top-tier explorers of the terrifyingly deep pit known as the Abyss. But unlike other explorers who maybe just poke around for relics and scream when the curses hit, Bondrewd looked at the cursed, child-eating hellhole and went, yes, I will build my lab here. And yes, I will use children, for science. He began casually sacrificing orphan children, yes, orphans, Nanachi and Midi, because this guy is allergic to moral decency, to study the effects of the Abyss's curse. Spoiler, the one who gets the curse turns into a blob of sad. Midi's body was broken down and reduced to an abomination without the ability to move, speak, or presumably think. And get this, when he died, it didn't even matter, because he just downloaded his personality into another body like he was updating his phone. Man had a whole army of himself ready to go. Light Yagami. The straight-A student who stumbled upon a magical notebook and thought, why not play God? Because that always ends well. He is the main protagonist of the manga series Death Note, as well as its multiple adaptations. So Light finds this Death Note, a notebook that unalives anyone whose name is written in it. Naturally, he tests it out on a couple of criminals, but instead of stopping there, he decides, hey, I'll just cleanse the world of all evil and become its deity. He adopts the alias Kira, which sounds like a trendy new energy drink, but is actually derived from the Japanese pronunciation of killer. Under this moniker, he embarks on a global killing spree, offing anyone he deems unworthy. Judges, criminals, nosy detectives, no one is safe. He had Naomi Mizura die without a trace, use and unalive Ray Penber, psychologically manipulated and abused Misa Amane through her undine love and loyalty towards Kira. Used Rem to unalive L and Watari, unalive the US president, and many more. He feels zero remorse for his actions. In fact, he finds it exhilarating. When Ryuk, the Shinigami who dropped the Death Note, points out that by eliminating all evildoers, Light himself becomes the sole remaining evil, Light shrugs it off. In the manga, he dies when Ryuk writes his name in his own Death Note, just as the Shinigami had warned when they first met. So, if you ever find a mysterious notebook lying around, maybe just use it for doodles. Green Goblin. Norman Osborn, the man, the myth, the walking cautionary tale of why mixing science experiments with a god complex is a recipe for disaster. Known in villainous circles as the Green Goblin, Norman decided that being a wealthy industrialist just wasn't enough. No, he needed to don a festive green outfit, hop on a flying glider, and throw pumpkin-shaped explosives at people. Norman's idea of father-son bonding involved selling his own son Harry's soul to Mephisto only for business success, simply because he was jealous of his more successful business partner. He unalived Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man's first love, by throwing her off a bridge. He buried Aunt May and faked her death just to mess with Peter Parker. And let's not forget the time he kidnapped Peter and Mary Jane's baby, made them think the child had died. He even turned his own grandson, Normie, into a monster by fusing him with the Carnage symbiote, who later tried to unalive him with an axe while under the influence of the Carnage symbiote. He unalived Ben Reilly simply to hurt Peter Parker. He poured alcohol down Flash Thompson's throat, causing him to have a car accident. What makes this worse is that at the time, he was a recovering alcoholic. Norman Osborn is the kind of guy who looks at a line and thinks, "How many times can I cross it before breakfast?" He is a cocktail of genius, insanity, and malevolence, shaken, not stirred, into the Green Goblin. Robert Daly. The man who took "Don't Meet Your Heroes" and turned it into "Don't Let Your Coworkers Near Your DNA." He's the socially awkward CTO from Black Mirror's U.S. Callister, who decided that if he couldn't get respect in the real world, he'd just build a virtual one where he was the captain, the god, and the ultimate space tyrant. Using a modded version of his own game, Infinity, Daly created digital clones of his colleagues by stealing their DNA from everyday items. He transformed his coworkers into unwilling participants in his sci-fi fantasy, forcing them to act out episodes of his favorite show, Space Fleet, and if they didn't play along, he'd erase their faces, turn them into grotesque aliens, or, in one particularly dark move, clone a colleague's child and eject the poor kid into space. Daly's idea of fun included removing his clones' naughty bits to keep things wholesome. He also ensured he was the only one with a working weapon, making every mission a one-man show where he saved the day while his crew cheered or else. In the end, his digital dictatorship crumbled when his virtual victims outsmarted him, escaping into the main game while he was left trapped in his own private server, unable to log out. Meanwhile, in the real world, he was comatose with a "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door, a fitting end for a man who turned escapism into enslavement. So if you're ever tempted to play God in a video game, maybe stick to building cities or managing a farm. It's a lot less creepy, and your coworkers will thank you. Scarlet King. SCP Foundation's ultimate cosmic drama queen, the flaming hot embodiment of "I hate everything, especially you and your mom." He's not just evil, he's capitally evil, with a dash of existential dread. Basically, he's what happens when you let Lovecraft write a villain while going through a breakup. Real name Herrick, later known more famously as the Scarlet King, is the major antagonist of the SCP Foundation series. This guy's backstory is more chaotic than a Reddit thread at 3 a.m., but generally, the Scarlet King is an ancient interdimensional entity who wants to destroy reality because reasons. Maybe he didn't get enough hugs. Maybe he just hates Mondays. Either way, this guy wakes up every morning and chooses apocalypse. He decided that all of existence should be destroyed once and for all, starting by devouring his own siblings and gaining strength from their essences. He destroyed gods. One of the gods he subjugated was a goddess named Sana, whom he took as his wife before raping her to death. In the process, she gave birth to 7 daughters, whom he then fertilized with leviathans. Brainwashed Hevel into becoming the immortal barbarian Ableshel. He is also the reason why Hevel became SCP-076-2. Scarlet King is that ancient horror who doesn't just want to rule the world. He wants to smash it into cosmic glitter and throw it into the void, just for funsies. Black Noir. The silent, brooding ninja of the Boys comic series. But don't let his stoic demeanor fool you. He's not just a man of few words, but a clone of Homelander with a penchant for chaos. Created by Vought American as a contingency plan to eliminate Homelander should he go rogue, Black Noir's life took a turn for the worse. Imagine being designed to unalive someone, but that someone never misbehaves enough to warrant your intervention. Frustrated and perhaps a tad bored, Noir decided to spice things up by impersonating Homelander and committing heinous acts, hoping to frame him and finally get the green light to fulfill his purpose. His actions also fueled Billy Butcher's hatred and vendetta against Homelander, after Noir raped Butcher's wife Becky while disguised as Homelander, and sparked the feud between the 7 and Boys in the first place. His resume of atrocities is, shall we say, extensive. From mass murder and terrorism to more unspeakable acts like cannibalism and psychological abuse, Black Noir didn't just cross the line, he obliterated it. He unalived Butcher's dog, Terror, and framed it on Jack from Jupiter, took out an entire school bus, sexually assaulted Starlight alongside Homelander and A-Train, sexually assaulted Huey inside a sewer during the Herogasm event, and many more. Black Noir is the kind of villain who makes other villains look like amateurs. A clone with a mission, a mask, and a twisted sense of purpose, he redefines the term evil twin in the most unsettling ways. Hey everyone! Thank you all for watching until the end. I'll be back with more videos, so make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for my next video, comment them down below.